My sister used my name to commit an $800,000 fraud. At our family dinner, I confronted her and simply said, "This is a police report." The perfect smile she wore dissolved instantly. The bank had called to inform me that I was responsible for a $623,000 mortgage I had never applied for. As it turned out, my own sister had exploited my good name to purchase her dream home. During the family meal, I remained silent until the moment I slid the police report across the dinner table. Her fork clattered onto her plate. Every single jaw around the table dropped. My entire world had been shattered by a single phone call, a profound betrayal that tore through the very heart of my family. I never could have imagined that the person I had admired my entire life would be the one to orchestrate such a devastating deception, leaving me to clean up the wreckage of a life she had methodically torn apart. Before the collapse, Leila Morgan, a 29-year-old nurse in Seattle, led a life that was genuinely wonderful. It was not spectacular, but it was deeply satisfying. For 6 years, I had been a registered nurse in the pediatric unit at Seattle General Hospital. Even on the most challenging days, helping sick children felt incredibly rewarding. My colleagues were like a second family, and I had built a reputation for being reliable and compassionate. My small, cozy apartment in Ballard was my sanctuary, filled with so many plants that my friends joked it resembled a greenhouse more than a home. Those green companions provided me with a sense of peace after long, demanding hospital shifts. Then there was my family. Victor and Alina, my parents, raised my sister, Serafina, and me in the same suburban house. They were good, honest, hard-working people. Serafina, 3 years my senior, had always been the charismatic one, the high achiever, the one who effortlessly made friends. I was the quieter, more studious one who only truly found my voice after college. But there was never any animosity, at least not that I was aware of. I was genuinely proud of her successes. As adults, we remained close. Serafina built a successful career in real estate, specializing in luxury properties. She married Damien Vale, a financial advisor, 5 years ago. They were a stunning couple, always sporting tans from their frequent tropical vacations. Their social media presence was a gallery of curated perfection. Meanwhile, I remained single, focusing on my career. Our lives could not have been more different, but we still met for coffee and attended family dinners twice a month. Serafina would sometimes make subtle comments about my lifestyle or suggest investments I couldn't possibly afford, but I always chalked it up to her just wanting the best for me. 8 months ago, Serafina and Damien moved into their magnificent craftsman home in Queen Anne, one of Seattle's most prestigious neighborhoods. At their housewarming party, I felt a pang of envy as I wandered through their impeccably renovated rooms, complete with Viking appliances and sweeping city views. "Someday you'll have this, too, sis," she had said, squeezing my shoulder. "You just need to aim a little higher." The day my world fell apart started like any other Tuesday. I was helping a 7-year-old boy named Noah change his bandages when my phone vibrated. I typically don't take calls during patient care, but I was expecting an update about an elderly neighbor. "Hello, this is Leila," I said, stepping into the hallway. "Miss Morgan, this is Marcus Hale from Washington Mutual Bank. I'm calling about your overdue mortgage payments. We've sent several notices, and I'm afraid if we don't resolve this soon, we will have to initiate foreclosure proceedings." My stomach plummeted. I'm sorry, there must be a mistake. I don't have a mortgage. I rent my apartment. His voice took on a slightly patronizing tone. Miss Morgan, our records indicate you took out a $623,000 mortgage in January for a property on Highland Drive. You made payments for the first 3 months, but we haven't received anything since April. Highland Drive. The name pricked at my memory. Wasn't that Serafina's street? This has to be an error, I insisted, my voice trembling. I've never bought a house. My credit isn't even strong enough for a loan of that size. I'm a nurse, not a surgeon. The application lists an annual income of $192,000 and a credit score of 782 at the time of the application. We have all the necessary documentation, Miss Morgan, including your signature on numerous forms. Perhaps you could come into the branch to look over the paperwork. The rest of the conversation was a blur. I returned to Noah's room on autopilot, my mind a whirlwind of confusion. A clerical error, identity theft, and that address, it couldn't be a coincidence. At the bank, Oliver Kent, the branch manager, presented a folder of documents that made my stomach churn with each page I turned. The loan application, income verification, credit check authorization, and closing papers all bore what appeared to be my signature. And there it was, in black and white. The property address matched Serafina's new home. Could I please get copies of all of this? I asked, my voice sounding distant and strange. Miss Morgan, if you did not apply for this loan, I strongly recommend you contact the police. This has all the hallmarks of identity theft and significant fraud. I nodded numbly, but a voice inside me was screaming. This wasn't just any identity theft. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had stolen my identity to buy her dream house. The days that followed were a chaotic storm of fear, disbelief, and intensive investigation. I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years, completely unable to focus as my personal life imploded. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now felt like a prison where I paced endlessly, oscillating between furious anger and utter confusion. Could there be some other explanation? Maybe Serafina had made a colossal administrative blunder. But as I scrutinized the copied documents, that hopeful idea crumbled. This was intentional. Someone had meticulously forged my signature on dozens of pages. Someone had provided my social security number, my date of birth, my employment history. Someone who knew me intimately. My first call was to Equifax. The customer service representative sounded bored until I explained the situation. His tone immediately shifted to one of practiced sympathy. Let me pull up your credit report, Miss Morgan. A few keyboard clicks, then a pause. Wow. There are several accounts here that seem to have been opened in the last year. The mortgage is the largest, but there's also a home equity line of credit for $150,000, $3 credit cards with limits between $20,000 and $30,000 each, and a personal loan for $45,000. I felt physically ill. All of those are fraudulent. I didn't open any of them. By the end of the day, I had contacted all 3 major credit bureaus, placed fraud alerts on my accounts, and learned that my credit score, once a respectable 724, had plummeted to 546 due to missed mortgage payments and maxed-out credit cards I never knew existed. The next morning, I met with Fiona Adler, a financial advisor. This is classic identity theft, she confirmed. And I have to say, it's quite sophisticated. Whoever did this knew exactly what information was needed to pass the verification checks. It was my sister, I blurted out, saying the accusation aloud for the first time. The house is hers. She's living in it. Fiona's expression shifted from professional concern to genuine shock. That complicates matters. Familial fraud is sadly common, but it presents unique challenges both legally and emotionally. What do I do? Legally, the path is clear. You have to file a police report. Without one, the banks will see you as a party to the debt, not a victim. I hesitated. Despite the mountain of evidence, a part of me still couldn't accept that Serafina, my childhood protector and role model, could do this to me. Before going to the police, I decided I needed more concrete proof. A handwriting expert confirmed the signatures were forgeries. Then, I started digging into Serafina's finances. Through social media and casual conversations, I uncovered alarming trends. Despite their appearance of wealth, Serafina and Damien had been facing financial difficulties for at least 2 years. Yet their lifestyle hadn't changed. If anything, it had become more extravagant. The most damning piece of evidence came from my friend Marissa, who worked at a luxury car dealership. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, Marissa said over coffee, but when they ran her credit for financing, it was a total disaster. Damien ended up paying with cash, but I overheard them arguing in the parking lot. He said something like, "We can't keep doing this. The house was risky enough." The house was damaged, my residence. I also discovered that many of the fraudulent credit accounts had been set up for online statements using a slight variation of my email address, LilaMorgan883@gmail.com, instead of my real one, LilaMill193@gmail.com. It was a subtle difference, easy to miss during automated verification, but it was clearly deliberate. Every new discovery felt like another heavy weight pressing down on my chest, making it harder to breathe and impossible to deny the truth. My sister, the person I trusted completely, had methodically stolen my identity to finance a lifestyle she could not afford. She had thrown me under the bus without a second thought, leaving me to face the financial and legal fallout when it all inevitably collapsed. After a week of investigation, I could no longer avoid the necessary step. With a heavy heart, I drove to the Seattle Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. I sat on a hard plastic chair for over an hour before a detective called my name. "Lila Morgan?" she asked. A woman in her 40s with short brown hair and weary eyes. "I'm Detective Nadia Cruz." "My apologies for the wait. Please come with me." She led me to a small, sterile interview room. "Now I understand you're here to report identity theft." "Yes," I said, my voice smaller than I'd intended. "By my sister." Detective Cruz's expression flickered with something, surprise, maybe sympathy, before settling back into professional neutrality. "I see. That's unfortunately more common than you'd think." "Tell me everything from the beginning." For the next 2 hours, I walked her through the entire nightmare. The phone call from the bank, the mortgage I never applied for, the credit cards and loans in my name, and the house my sister was living in, all secured using my stolen identity. "Miss Morgan, I need to be very clear about something," Detective Cruz said. "Filing this report means we will investigate this fully. If the evidence supports your claims, your sister could face serious criminal charges. Identity theft and mortgage fraud are felonies. She could go to prison. Are you prepared for that?" The question hit me like a physical blow. Was I prepared to be responsible for sending Serafina to prison, for destroying her life, her marriage, her career? I thought about our childhood, how she taught me to ride a bike, helped with my homework, and defended me from bullies. I thought of our parents who would be utterly devastated. But then I thought of my ruined credit score, the $623,000 debt hanging over my head, and the fundamental breach of trust that I couldn't begin to comprehend. "Yes," I said finally. "I have to protect myself. If she faces consequences for her actions, that's her responsibility, not mine." Detective Cruz nodded. "I know this is incredibly difficult. We will handle the investigation with discretion, but I can't promise privacy, especially if charges are filed. These cases become public record." As I signed the official report, with my real signature, not the forged one, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The wheels of justice were now in motion, and I couldn't stop them even if I wanted to. 2 days later, Detective Cruz called with an update. "We've confirmed your suspicions, Miss Morgan." The mortgage application was submitted online, using your personal details, but from an IP address that traces back to your sister's previous apartment. We're also investigating her husband's potential involvement. Financial crimes of this scale are rarely the work of just one person in a household. Damien. I hadn't really considered his role until now, but of course he would have known. As a financial advisor, he might have even helped orchestrate the entire scheme. "There's more," Detective Cruz continued. "We've found evidence suggesting they were planning to declare bankruptcy in your name once the debts became overwhelming. There are search histories from their home computer for bankruptcy laws and identity abandonment. The premeditated cruelty of their plan took my breath away. They hadn't just stolen my identity in a moment of desperation. They had a long-term plan to utterly destroy my financial standing while protecting their own. A week after filing the report, I received the official police documents, a full dossier detailing the evidence against Serafina and Damien. Bank statements showing transfers from accounts in my name to their personal accounts, loan applications with the forged signatures, and credit card statements detailing purchases at boutiques and restaurants I had never visited. Sitting at my kitchen table that evening, I went through every document, highlighting the most damning sections. The police had done a thorough job, building what seemed like an airtight case. According to Detective Cruz, the district attorney was confident about pressing charges. Tomorrow was our bi-weekly family dinner. Serafina would be there, blissfully unaware that her scheme had been uncovered. She didn't know I had received the foreclosure notice. She didn't know I had spent weeks investigating her. She didn't know about the police report that was now sitting in a manila folder on my counter. As I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Looking forward to seeing my girls tomorrow. I'm making your favorite lasagna. Love you both." The casual normality of it shattered something inside me. I cried for the first time since this nightmare began, not just for myself, but for our parents, whose world was about to be torn apart. I spent nearly an hour deciding what to wear for dinner. It felt important. I settled on a simple navy dress, professional and serious, a stark contrast to my usual casual wear. But this was no ordinary dinner. I applied my makeup with care, determined that Serafina would not see how deeply she had wounded me. I would not give her that satisfaction. Driving to my parents' house, I was flooded with memories of happier family dinners. Tonight would be the last of those, at least in any form I recognized. After tonight, nothing would ever be the same. I parked a block away and took a moment to compose myself. Walking up to the house, I saw Serafina's white Range Rover in the driveway. Was that a lie, too? purchased with fraudulent credit in my name. The familiar, comforting smell of my mother's lasagna met me at the door. I considered turning around, driving home, and pretending to be sick. I could confront Serafina privately, give her a chance to make it right without the public humiliation. But then I remembered the bankruptcy searches Detective Cruz had mentioned. Serafina and Damien had fully intended to leave me financially ruined while they walked away clean. They deserved no mercy. I rang the doorbell. The weight of the police report in my bag felt like a physical burden. "Leila," my mother said, her face beaming as she opened the door. She pulled me into a warm hug. "You look beautiful, but so serious. Is everything all right at the hospital?" "Everything's fine, Mom," I lied, hugging her back. "Just a long week." Inside, my father sat in his usual chair, a recliner with a glass of red wine. "There's my girl. Want some wine? It's that Oregon Pinot you like." "Thanks, Dad." "That would be lovely." Serafina's laugh, as bright and melodic as ever, floated from the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway, wearing an expensive-looking cream blouse and tailored trousers, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her smile radiant. "Leila, finally. I was just telling Mom about this incredible patient success story I heard from Dr. Bennett at the club. You should really talk to him about potential positions in his practice. The benefits are amazing." The audacity of it was stunning. Here she was, having stolen my identity, offering me career advice as if she had my best interests at heart. I forced a smile. "I'm happy where I am, thanks." If she noticed my coolness, she gave no sign. Dinner proceeded with a painful normality. Dad carved the steak. Mom served lasagna. Julian, my brother, talked about a new project at work. The kids chattered. Serafina skillfully deflected any questions about their finances, always pivoting the conversation to someone else's life. "You're quiet tonight, Leila," my father observed as we neared the end of the main course. "Tough week." I placed my fork down carefully. "You could say that. Anything you want to talk about?" Mom asked, her brow furrowing with concern. Before I could answer, Serafina jumped in. "Oh, Mom, leave her be. Not everyone needs to process everything out loud like me." She laughed and tossed her hair. "Some people just need to mull things over privately." The irony was almost too much to bear. Serafina, the perpetrator of crimes that would soon be very public, was advocating for my privacy. "Actually," I began, my voice steady, meeting my sister's eyes across the table, "there is something I need to talk about, with all of you." A flicker of unease crossed Serafina's face before her confident mask was back in place. "Sounds serious. Let's at least have dessert first." "I brought that chocolate mousse cake from Dahlia's that you love, Leila." "That can wait," I said firmly. The table fell silent. Even the children sensed the abrupt shift in tension. "Julian, why don't you take the kids into the living room?" my mother said, her well-honed sense for family drama kicking in. Once the kids were gone, I reached into my bag and pulled out the manila folder. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. Serafina's eyes were fixed on the folder, her smile faltering. "What's that, honey?" my father asked. I took a deep breath. This was it. There was no going back. "This," I said, placing my hand flat on the folder, "is a police report." The silence stretched. My mom's eyes widened. My father set down his wine glass with a deliberate gentleness. Damien, who had been quiet most of the evening, was now on high alert, his gaze darting between the folder and Serafina. "A police report," my mother repeated. "Leila, what happened? Are you okay?" "I'm not okay, Mom. I've been the victim of a crime." I pushed the folder across the table toward Serafina, looking her directly in the eye. "Identity theft and fraud, to be specific." Serafina didn't touch the folder. Her face had gone very still, all its dynamic expressions frozen. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice an octave higher than usual. "Open it," I said calmly. Damien placed a hand on Serafina's arm. "Maybe we should discuss this privately, Serafina." "There's nothing to discuss," she said quickly, still not touching the folder. "Leela's obviously confused about something." My father, never one for prolonged tension, tried to diffuse the situation. "Is this some kind of a joke, girls?" "No, Dad." I reached across the table myself and flipped open the folder, revealing the first page of the police report with its official letterhead and case number. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Washington Mutual Bank about missed mortgage payments on a $623,000 loan I never took out, for a house I've never owned, at 4872 Highland Drive. My mother let out a small gasp. "But that's Serafina and Damien's address," I finished for her. "The dream house they've been showing off to everyone for months was bought with a mortgage fraudulently taken out in my name, along with a home equity line of credit, 3 credit cards, and a personal loan, all maxed out, all in default." All eyes turned to Serafina, whose face was now drained of all color. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Serafina gave a brittle, forced laugh. "This is ridiculous. There's obviously been some kind of mistake, a bank error or—" "The police don't think so," I interjected. "Neither does the handwriting expert who confirmed the forged signatures. Neither does the IP address evidence that shows the mortgage application was submitted from your old condo." Damien shot up from his chair. "We should go, Serafina. We don't have to listen to these accusations." My father found his voice, deep and shaking with a controlled fury. "Sit down, Damien. Both of you will sit there and explain what the hell is going on." Serafina's demeanor suddenly shifted. The deer-in-the-headlights look vanished, replaced by a cold calculation. "Fine. You want an explanation." We hit a rough patch. Damien's firm collapsed after his partner embezzled funds. My commissions dried up in the market downturn. We were about to lose everything we'd worked for. "So you decided to steal my identity?" I asked, my voice laced with disbelief. "To saddle me with over $800,000 in debt that I knew nothing about?" "It was supposed to be temporary," Serafina insisted, her voice rising. "Once the market turned around, once Damien's new clients came through, we were going to refinance everything properly." "That's a lie," I said flatly. "The police found your computer searches about declaring bankruptcy in my name. You were never going to make this right. You were planning to destroy my financial future to save yourselves." My mother began to cry softly. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "Serafina," he said, his voice disturbingly quiet. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this to your sister." Serafina looked like she was about to issue another denial. Then her shoulders slumped in defeat. "We were desperate. You don't understand what it's like. To have achieved a certain lifestyle, a certain status, and then to watch it all slipping away. People were counting on us to be successful. Clients, friends, family, everyone. I was counting on you to be my sister," I whispered, my voice finally breaking. "To love me, not to betray me." Damien immediately turned on Serafina. "I told you this would blow up in our faces. I told you we should have found another way." "There was no other way," Serafina shot back. "Your brilliant investment strategies lost us everything. What was I supposed to do?" "Not commit felony fraud using your sister's identity," Damien retorted. "Do you have any idea what this means? We could go to prison, Serafina." My parents stared, aghast at this exchange. My father then rose from his chair, his hands shaking. "Get out, both of you, get out of my house." "Dad, please," Serafina pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. I couldn't tell if they were genuine or calculated. You have to understand. I understand perfectly, he said, cutting her off. You stole from your sister. You lied to all of us. You were willing to ruin Leela's life to maintain your facade. I don't even know who you are anymore. My mother, still weeping, looked at Serafina with a look of utter devastation. How could you? After everything we taught you about honesty, about family, what happened to you, Serafina? Nothing happened to me, Mom, Serafina retorted, her defiance returning. I just refuse to fail. Unlike the rest of this family, I have ambition. I have standards. Did you think I wanted to end up like Leela? Living in a tiny apartment with her plants as her only companions. The casual cruelty of her words stunned me into silence. Is that what you really think of my life? That it's some kind of failure because I don't have a mansion and a luxury car? You could have had more, Serafina spat. You're smart enough, but you've always settled for less. Honestly, it's not like you were even using your good credit score for anything important. Damien grabbed her arm. Enough, Serafina, we're leaving, now. He turned to me, his face a mask of rage and panic. This isn't over, Leela. You have no idea what you've done by filing that report. I know exactly what I've done, I said calmly. I've protected myself from criminals, that's what you both are, and now you'll face the consequences. As they were leaving, my mother cried out, Serafina, the police. Will they arrest you? Serafina paused at the door. For a fleeting moment, her mask of defiance slipped, and I saw a raw, genuine fear in her eyes. I don't know, Mom, probably. After they left, the three of us sat in stunned silence. My father poured himself another wine, his hands still trembling. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, looking years older than she had an hour ago. I should have seen it, she said finally. All those extravagant purchases, the house we knew they couldn't afford. I thought they were being irresponsible with money, not this. None of us saw it, I said, reaching for her hand. I never imagined Serafina was capable of this, not to a stranger, let alone to me. My father stared at the police report, still open on the table. What happens now? The district attorney decides whether to press charges. Given the evidence, Detective Cruz thinks it's almost certain. Serafina and Damien will be arrested, probably within the week. And the debts. My father, ever the practical accountant, asked, the mortgage, the credit cards? I'm working with the banks to clear my name. It's a long process, but the police report is the key to proving I'm a victim, not a participant. But my credit is still destroyed, at least for now. We sat together for hours that night, processing the shock, the betrayal, and the uncertain road ahead. My brother Julian came back after putting his kids to bed, and we explained everything. His initial disbelief turned to a protective fury on my behalf. I'll testify against her if they need me to, he said fiercely. What she did to you is unforgivable. Driving home that night, I felt hollowed out, as if something vital had been surgically removed from my chest. I had done what I had to do to protect myself, but there was no sense of victory. Only a profound grief for the sister I thought I knew and the family that would never be the same again. The immediate aftermath of that fateful dinner felt like watching scenes from someone else's life, as if I'd been cast in a TV drama I never auditioned for. 3 days after the confrontation, Detective Cruz called. Arrest warrants have been issued for both Serafina and Damien. They were taken into custody at their home, my home, according to the fraudulent mortgage, and charged with multiple felonies. Identity theft, grand larceny, forgery, and conspiracy. Their arrests made local news. Prominent Seattle realtor and financial advisor accused in identity theft scheme, the headline read. Victim was reportedly the realtor's sister. My name was mercifully omitted from the report, but anyone who knew our family could easily connect the dots. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from concerned friends, distant relatives, and even old high school acquaintances. I turned it off, unable to bear the well-intentioned but intrusive questions. My parents retreated into a state of shock and social hibernation. Dad stopped going to his weekly golf game, unable to face his friends who had surely seen the news. Mom took a leave of absence from her teaching job. Their social circle, built over decades, suddenly felt like a minefield. Everyone must be talking about us, Mom said during one of my visits, her voice filled with a mixture of shame and bewilderment. She kept wondering aloud where they had gone wrong with Serafina. You didn't go wrong, I'd tell her, though a part of me was asking the same question. Had there been signs of Serafina's moral flexibility that we had all ignored or excused over the years? The pressure from my family to withdraw the charges started subtly, but grew more intense as the reality of Serafina's situation became clear. She and Damien had been released on bail but had to surrender their passports. Their assets were frozen, including the house, which the bank was now moving to seize. She made a terrible mistake, my mother pleaded over the phone one evening. But she's still your sister, still our daughter. Can't you talk to the district attorney, ask them to reduce the charges, maybe some kind of probation instead of prison? Mom, she stole my identity. She planned to declare bankruptcy in my name. Do you understand what that would have done to me? I wouldn't have been able to rent an apartment, get a car loan, maybe even keep my job if it required a security clearance. She was willing to destroy my life. I know, honey, what she did was inexcusable, but she has 2 young children. Think about your niece and nephew growing up without their mother. That was the hardest part. Ara and Rowan, ages 5 and 7, were completely innocent in all of this. I adored those kids. And now, because of my police report, they face the prospect of losing their parents to incarceration. My resolve wavered. It was Marissa who helped me regain my perspective during a much-needed night out. Listen to me, she said, setting her vodka tonic down with a firm thud. Serafina made the choice to commit multiple felonies. She made the choice to victimize her own sister. She made the choice to endanger her children by engaging in criminal activity. None of this is your fault. The consequences are hers to bear, not yours to soften. Your parents are doing what parents do, trying to protect their child. But in this case, they're protecting the wrong one. You are the victim here, Leela. Don't let them make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. She was right, of course. When I met with the district attorney the following week, I made it clear I had no intention of asking for the charges to be dropped or reduced. Miss Morgan, I want to commend you for your fortitude, said the prosecutor, Clara Wu. Many identity theft cases involving family members never make it to court because the victims recant under family pressure. But these are serious crimes with real consequences, and they deserve serious punishment. The legal process dragged on with excruciating slowness. All the while, I had to keep going to work, paying my bills, and trying to piece my shredded credit back together. I'll never forget the day Serafina and Damien finally accepted a plea deal. 9 months after our family dinner showdown, I sat in the courtroom and watched my sister, thinner now, her designer clothes replaced with a simple blue suit, stand before the judge. Serafina Vale, you have pleaded guilty to 1 count of identity theft, 1 count of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy, the judge intoned. Before I pass sentence, do you wish to make a statement? Serafina turned slightly, her eyes finding mine in the gallery. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the sister from my childhood, vulnerable, human, and flawed. "I want to apologize to my sister," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed your trust in the worst way possible, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. I was selfish and desperate and terrified of failure. But that's no excuse for hurting the one person who has always supported me and believed in me. I am so sorry, Leela." The judge sentenced Serafina to 18 months in federal prison. Damien received 12 months. Both were also sentenced to 3 years of supervised release and ordered to pay full restitution. As Serafina was led away, our eyes met one last time. There was so much unsaid between us, so much damage that might never be repaired. I didn't know if I could ever truly forgive her. But in that moment, I recognized the tangled complexity of my own feelings. The anger and betrayal were still there, but they were woven with memories of a shared childhood, of a love that had, at one time, been real. The weeks following the sentencing were a blur of practical matters. The bank foreclosed on the house and sold it at auction. I worked with the credit bureaus to get the fraudulent accounts removed from my report, a painstakingly slow and frustrating process. My relationship with my parents remained strained. They visited Serafina regularly but rarely mentioned it to me. We tried to maintain a semblance of family, but our conversations were stilted, carefully navigating around the giant elephant in the room. Thanksgiving came and went, the first in my memory without a full family gathering. Christmas was similarly fractured. The decades-long traditions of our family had been shattered, along with our trust. The day the bank finally removed the fraudulent mortgage from my credit report felt like emerging from a long, dark tunnel. My credit score was slowly starting to recover. I had moved to a new apartment, seeking a fresh start away from the memories of the betrayal. As winter gave way to spring, I received an unexpected letter. It wasn't from Serafina, who had been writing regularly with apologies I wasn't ready to accept, but from my niece. In shaky, 7-year-old handwriting on pink stationery, she wrote, "Dear Aunt Leela, I miss you a lot. Grandma says you are mad at Mommy because she did something bad. I am mad at Mommy sometimes too, like when she wouldn't let me have 2 desserts, but I still love her. Do you still love her? Can you come see me in Rowan? We have a new apartment, but it is small and doesn't have a garden like the big house. Love, Ara." Tears welled in my eyes as I read the simple, innocent words of a child, unable to grasp the magnitude of what had happened. Whatever my feelings about Serafina, Ara and Rowan were innocent casualties of their parents' choices. They deserved an aunt who loved them, even if that love had to exist separately from their mother's betrayal. That evening, I called my parents and asked if I could see the kids. The relief in my mother's voice was palpable. "They ask about you all the time," she said. "They would love to see you." My weekend visit with my niece and nephew was the first, tentative step toward something resembling healing. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a recognition that family bonds, even when stretched to the breaking point, don't simply disappear. They change, requiring new boundaries, new expectations, and new definitions of trust. 6 months into Serafina's sentence, the foreclosure sign came down from the front of the Highland Drive house. A new family moved in, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded within those walls. I drove by it sometimes, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Not longing or envy, but something more complicated. The house that had been the symbol of my sister's betrayal was now just a house again, filled with people who had no connection to our family's sorrow. My credit score, while not fully healed, was back in the fair range. The fraudulent accounts were gone. I had settled into my new apartment, smaller than my last one but in a more secure building with a locking mailbox. The paranoia remained, an unwelcome companion I was learning to live with. My weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Iris Lang had become a critical part of my recovery. Betrayal by a family member inflicts a unique kind of trauma, Dr. Lang explained. The very people we are wired to trust for our safety become the source of our harm. It fundamentally alters our ability to trust. Will I ever trust anyone again? I had asked, only half joking. You'll trust differently, she had replied. More thoughtfully, more deliberately, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. She was right. I had become more cautious, more diligent about checking my financial statements, more selective about who I let into my inner circle. But I hadn't shut myself off from the world, which had been my fear in those first dark days. My relationship with my parents was slowly improving, though it would never be what it once was. The strain of their divided loyalties, their natural instinct to support Serafina versus my valid need to be acknowledged as the victim, left an underlying tension. But we were all trying. Sunday dinners had resumed, albeit less frequently and with a careful avoidance of certain topics. Your father and I visited Serafina yesterday, my mother mentioned during one of these dinners, watching my reaction carefully. How is she? I asked, surprised by my own genuine curiosity. She's managing, teaching an ESL class to some of the other inmates. She asked about you. I nodded but didn't offer a response. I still wasn't ready to visit Serafina, to face her across a prison visiting room and listen to more apologies. Maybe someday, but not yet. My father, who had been mostly silent on the topic of Serafina for months, suddenly spoke up. She's different in there. Humbled, I think. I think she's finally starting to understand the scale of what she did. To you. It was the first time he had so explicitly centered me as the victim, rather than focusing on Serafina's suffering. The validation, however late, meant more than I could express. Thank you for saying that, Dad, I said quietly. The most unexpected support came from my extended family. My cousin Nadia, with whom I'd never been particularly close, reached out. I never told anyone in the family, she said over coffee, but my college roommate stole my identity, opened a bunch of credit cards, ran up thousands in debt. I know a little of what you've been through. What did you do? I asked. Pressed charges just like you, lost friends over it who thought I was overreacting, never regretted it for a second. Finding this community of understanding, other victims of identity theft who instinctively understood the violation I had experienced, became a crucial part of my healing. I joined an online support group and later started attending in-person meetings of a financial crimes survivors network. There, I met people from all walks of life whose stories echoed my own. The shock of discovery, the long, arduous process of clearing their names, the fractured relationships with those who couldn't understand why they wouldn't just forgive and forget. In their company, I didn't have to explain or justify my feelings. They already knew. Through this network, I connected with a nonprofit organization that provides support to victims of identity theft. After using their resources myself, I began to volunteer, using my own experience to help others navigate the labyrinth of credit bureaus, law enforcement, and financial institutions. You have a gift for this, Selene, the organization's director, told me. You're empathetic without sugarcoating the reality of what they're up against. This work gave my pain a purpose, transforming a traumatic personal event into knowledge that could help others. I couldn't undo what Serafina had done, but I could use the experience to make someone else's journey a little less lonely, a little more manageable. Moving to my new apartment was more than just a practical necessity. It was a symbolic new beginning. I filled it with plants, as always, but also with new furniture that held no connection to my life before the betrayal. I set up a small home office with a locking file cabinet, not because I expected another family member to steal my identity, but because the experience had taught me the value of diligent security. About a year into Serafina's sentence, I received a letter that was different from her previous attempts at communication. Unlike her earlier blanket apologies, this one addressed the specific harm she had caused me. "I've been working with a therapist in here," she wrote. "She's helping me see that real accountability means understanding not just that I did something wrong, but how my actions specifically hurt you. I stole more than your identity, Leela. I stole your sense of security, your trust in family, your belief in my love for you. I can't fix that damage, but I want you to know that I see it now, clearly. I'm not asking for your forgiveness or even for a reply. I just want you to know that I understand what I did, and I will live with that knowledge for the rest of my life." I didn't reply right away, but I kept the letter, rereading it from time to time. The acknowledgement of the specific harms felt more genuine, more complete, more real than her earlier, more general apologies. Around this time, I made a decision that surprised even me. Using some of the restitution money that had finally started trickling in from Serafina and Damien's seized assets, I put a down payment on a small house with a big yard, perfect for an ever-expanding garden. The irony was not lost on me. In a roundabout way, my sister's crime had ultimately led to me owning the kind of home she had fraudulently claimed in my name. The day I signed the mortgage paperwork, the real, legal mortgage paperwork, was a moment that should have been purely joyful, but it was tinged with an unexpected wave of emotion. Sitting in the loan officer's office, looking at documents that were so eerily similar to the forgeries that had upended my life, I felt a strange sense of a circle closing. "Is everything all right, Miss Morgan?" the loan officer asked. "Yes," I said, signing my own name, my real name, on a loan I had chosen for a house I could afford. "Everything is fine. Better than fine, actually." Taking ownership of my new home was a powerful act of reclamation. I painted the walls colors that I loved, started a vegetable garden, and threw a housewarming party for my friends, my first real celebration since the identity theft came to light. Marissa brought champagne and a doormat that read, "Not today, identity thieves." The dark humor made me laugh despite myself. My parents came too, bringing a houseplant and an awkward but sincere offering of well wishes. They were trying to support this new chapter for me while still maintaining their relationship with Serafina. "It's a beautiful home, Leela," my mother said, hugging me tightly. "We're so proud of you." "For buying a house?" I asked. "For everything," my father clarified. "For how you've handled all of this, with dignity and strength." It wasn't a complete healing. That would take years more if it ever came at all. But it was an acknowledgement, and that mattered. 2 weeks after my housewarming, I finally did something I had been contemplating for months. I drove to the federal correctional institution where Serafina was serving her sentence and put my name on her visitor list. I wasn't ready to see her yet, but I wanted the option to be there. if and when the time felt right. As I continue to rebuild my life, I've come to understand that healing isn't a destination. It's a journey. Some days, I feel strong and forward-looking. On others, the sting of the betrayal feels as fresh and raw as it did at the start. My journey has taught me to make space for both realities. What happened between my sister and me is a story without a neat ending or a perfect resolution. Family bonds, once broken by betrayal, can never be perfectly reassembled. But they can be reformed into something new, something perhaps more honest, with clearer boundaries and carefully rebuilt trust. I don't know if Serafina and I will ever get back to anything resembling our former closeness. I don't know if I will ever fully trust her again. But I do know this. I have survived the worst betrayal I can imagine, and I have emerged from it stronger, wiser, and more self-reliant than I was before. If there is a lesson in all of this, it's that trust is a precious resource that should be given wisely, guarded carefully, and when necessary for self-preservation, withdrawn. Love and trust are not the same thing, a distinction I never fully grasped until now. I can love my sister while also acknowledging that she has broken my trust in ways that may never be repaired. This ordeal has taught me that family loyalty has, and should have, limits. Standing up for yourself, even against those you love, is not selfish. It is essential. And if forgiveness comes, it must be preceded by accountability, not used as a substitute for it. I am still writing my story, still figuring out the path forward. But I know this much. I will not be a silent victim. I will not sacrifice my financial future to protect someone who failed to protect me. I will not accept betrayal as the price of family harmony. And in those refusals, I have found my strength. How about you? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted implicitly? How did you navigate the fallout? And what boundaries did you put in place afterward? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story has helped you feel less alone in your own journey with family betrayal, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more true stories of resilience and recovery. Share this with someone you know who might be facing similar struggles. Knowing that others have walked the same difficult path can make all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, protecting yourself is not selfish. It is essential for survival and for eventual healing. Sitting in the loan officer's office, studying documents that were strikingly identical to those forgeries in my name, I felt a strange circle closing. "Is everything all right, Miss Morgan?" the loan officer said. "Yes," I said, signing my real name on a loan I had chosen for a house I could afford. "Everything is fine. Better than fine, actually." Taking ownership of my new home was a strong act of reclamation. I painted my walls in colors I liked, started a vegetable garden, and invited friends to a housewarming party. My first true celebration since the identity theft discovery. Marissa brought champagne and a doormat that said, "Not today. Identity thieves." Dark comedy made me laugh despite myself. My parents also visited, bringing a house plant and awkward well wishes. They were striving to support this new chapter while maintaining their friendship with Serafina. "It's a lovely home, Leela," my mother exclaimed, holding me warmly. "We're so proud of you for buying a house," I inquired. "For everything," my father explained. "For how you've handled all of this with dignity and strength. It wasn't completely mending. That would take years longer if it ever arrived, but acknowledgement was important." 2 weeks after my housewarming, I finally did something I had been thinking about for months. I drove to the federal penitentiary institution where Serafina was serving her term and put my name on her visitor list. I wasn't ready to see her yet, but I wanted the choice there if and when the time came. As I continue to rebuild my life, I've realized that healing is a journey, not a destination. Some days I feel strong and forward-looking. Others experience the betrayal as fresh and intense. Throughout my trip, I've learned to accept both realities. What happened between my sister and me is a narrative with no clear finale or ideal resolution. Once betrayed, family relationships can never be fully rebuilt. However, they can evolve into something new, perhaps more honest, with clearly defined boundaries and carefully restored trust. I'm not sure if Serafina and I will ever restore anything approximating our prior intimacy. I'm not sure whether I'll ever totally trust her again. But I'm confident that I've weathered the worst betrayal I can conceive, and I've grown stronger, wiser, and more self-sufficient than before. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's that trust should be viewed as a valuable resource given wisely, guarded appropriately, and removed when necessary for self-protection. Love and trust are not the same thing, which I had never completely understood until today. I can love my sister while realizing that she has broken my trust in ways that may never be restored. This event taught me that there are and should be boundaries to family loyalty. Standing up for yourself, even when it means going against others you care about, is not selfish, but rather vital. If forgiveness is granted, it must follow accountability rather than replace it. I am continuously creating my story and figuring out how to move forward. But I know this: I will not be a victim in silence. I refuse to give up my financial future to protect someone who has not protected me. I refuse to accept betrayal as the cost of family harmony. And in those refusals, I found my strength. How about you? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you manage it? And what boundaries did you set afterward? I would love to hear your stories in the comments section below. If this testimony made you feel less alone in your own experience with family betrayal, please like it and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences of perseverance and recovery. Share with someone who may be dealing with similar challenges. Knowing that others have walked the same arduous route can make a huge difference.